IPL Radio, inspiring passionate lives for the community.
Hello IPL community, how you going? You are back with Karen and Ali for the Monday Motivational Show.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Let's get motivated. And we have a special guest. It's like we're just keeping going, Ali. It's just guest galore today, isn't it?
I love it. I love the blend of interesting people that we have at our fingertips in
Absolutely.
sunny Rockingham. How lucky are we?
So many amazing humans. And another one is Shane Carrie, and you are a counsellor with a job seeker background. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working with employment services for the last 20 years or thereabouts, and due to various reasons, I've decided to change over and get into counselling. And I've just completed my qualification at Murdoch University and hoping to get out there and help people get themselves back into the workplace, get themselves sorted out and basically get their lives moving on.
Oh, you and Ali sing from the same hymn sheet, don't you?
Well, I'll let you into a little secret, actually. Shane and I used to work together once upon a time for the Salvation Army Employment Plus.
Absolutely.
And I know that his heart is filled with compassion. And you are such a good egg in that system because so many people benefited from having you in their world as a job seeker. Because needless to say, we used to come across individuals who really were from sometimes poverty-stricken backgrounds, people who came through domestic violence, alcoholism, drug abuse or drug challenges, shall we say. And you were always so compassionate. So now it seems like you've blended your 20 years of experience and combined it into counselling so you can give them a even more holistic kind of service.
Well, I certainly hope so. It's all I think about when I see somebody come in the doors at an agency like Salvation Army or APM or any of the other employment services is somebody that, you or I could be that person if we hadn't made a simple choice at one stage or if something had happened at some stage. So they're no different for you or I or anybody else who's walking down the street. And because of that, they deserve our assistance and our help to bring them back to where they need to be.
And respect as well. I think that's the underlying thing, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
There was an article on the weekend that I actually read and I shared on LinkedIn, and it was about, there was a study that was conducted and individuals would actually go in and look at the job seeker services that were provided. And it varied so much. But I think one thing that I will say for the majority of individuals who go into employment services are there because they actually want to be, because it's certainly not for the money.
Well, that's it. You have to be passionate, don't you?
You and I can verify that. And so, but I think you have to be a very special person to stay in the services as long as you have had for over 20 years. What has kept you there?
Again, I think it's that ability to be able to help people. My background's in teaching, secondary school education, and I always used to count it a win if I went into the class at the beginning of the day and there was 30 or 40 heads in front of me, and if at one time during that day one of them lit up and sort of said, "Oh, I got it," that's what makes the difference. Yep. So it's about making sure you see those small wins and you celebrate them and you hang on to those because there are many days when you don't get that.
That's right.
And yeah, it's just that pleasure at seeing something you don't want to be, if that's sort of the first step.
I totally understand. And I think one of the things that you and I definitely agree upon here, and many of our listeners will potentially relate to, everyone's circumstances are very different. And we've both worked in disability employment services as well. And when often you may have had an accident or an illness or an injury, it's not actually that particularly that prevents you from working. It's actually then feeling demotivated, feeling that you've been out of the workforce and you feel a bit helpless. A lot of the people that we've come across.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm in a unique situation here because a lot of our customers used to come into job services or disability employment and they'd look at the person behind the desk and they'd think, okay, you've always had a job, you've gone from here to there, you don't have to want for anything. Over the past 4 years, I've been off work for 2.5 of them with various health-related issues. Getting back into the workforce after the COVID situation has been extremely problematic. I've been on Centrelink for the past, 2 and 3/4 years, probably more. Sometimes filling that with study. I've had some part-time work and, I've worked in the employment service for 20 years and I worked for Australia Post before that, and I'm a qualified teacher. And the last job I've had for the past 3 months has been kitchen hand and delivery driver at an Indian restaurant.
Good on you.
And it's, you do lose motivation, you lose confidence,
Yes.
but there's always ways of getting back into it. And now with this, completion of my qualification, it's a new start for me and, hoping to get, into that sort of business.
And many others. I think when you say it's a new start for you, I think whoever comes across your path in the counselling services will be very lucky to have you.
But you can identify a niche there, because to be able to go from that to then expand your mindset to your potential and what you can aim for, and there needs to be that bridge between rocking up and getting the job, really, isn't there?
It's empathy. It's not just being able to say, I can understand logically, where you are because you haven't got a job, you haven't got much money, you're limited to what you can do and be and everything. And at the same time, I can say, I was there, 2 months ago. Actually,
Relatable.
Lived experience, though, it gives you that when somebody rocks up in front of you.
Absolutely. One of the most surreal experiences I had actually was when I first started in employment services. I got a job with Communicare as a work for the dole officer, helping people get into work for the dole. This is back in 2000 or 2001, thereabouts. And just before that, I'd finished my some other studies, and I'd gone into Centrelink because I was on Centrelink payments at that time, and I'd sat there while the bloke at the front of the room told us all about the fact that if we weren't working within 3 months' time, we'd have to do work for the dole. And 2 weeks after that, I'm at the front of that room at the same Centrelink talking to the assembled multitude that if you're not out in work in 3 months' time, you're going to do work for the dole.
Oh, my
And that was
goodness.
quite a
The
bizarre
irony,
feeling.
hey?
Yeah.
But I think for those that aren't quite sure, so with if you actually go to an employment provider, so firstly, if you actually are in need of any kind of Centrelink assistance, Centrelink actually then allocates you to an employment provider. And what that means is the employment provider gives you a consultant that enables you or is there to assist you into finding employment. Is that okay if I just kind of share that for individuals who don't know what it is?
Yeah.
And part of that, they actually, when you go to an employment provider, they create a job plan for you, which is creating an agreement that they're going to help you build a resume, assist you for job searching strategies and techniques, help you with interview performance and coaching. Also, there is an availability that there is a fund available, isn't there, to help people with maybe even interview clothes or transport or work boots for the first time.
Yeah.
And
there's funding available, there is assistance available, but there's also obligations attached to that because you're receiving a payment from Centrelink, and of course that's government, it's taxpayers' funds.
Yes.
So they've got to justify why you're getting what you're getting from them.
Yep.
And the role of the employment consultant or the job coach or whatever they call it is basically to assist that person, the client, hateful word, but we'll use that one, to transition through all those different steps that Centrelink requires to go through, okay? But at the same time, yes, that employment consultant needs to motivate that person, to empower them, to give them the skills.
Confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the hardest thing because, I mean, anybody can look for a job. And there have been various methods that have been used over the years. Get your employment consultant to ring 5 employers while you're sitting there in front of them, all this sort of palaver. I still think the best thing to do is if you can motivate that person, if you can encourage them and give them confidence, they'll go out there by themselves and apply for 10 jobs.
Become an independent job seeker.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's no one size fits all. It's a very individual basis, isn't it? And you have to take a lot of things into account, that's surrounding that one person. Yeah. But to get the best out of someone and to get someone motivated is to give them a zest for it.
Exactly.
Help them into something that they enjoy doing.
Yeah. And people need a goal. They need something to achieve. And I suppose when I was doing the counselling training, one of the things they talked about was solutions-focused counselling. And solutions-focused is where you're basically saying, you're here, you want to be there, how do we bridge that gap between A and B? You can't do it in one fell swoop, because if you're here as a kitchen hand and you want to be a brain surgeon, you're not going to walk into that job. You have to, look at different steps you have to take along the way.
Stepping stone approach.
Exactly. Yeah.
The journey, everything's a journey. Anything worthwhile doing is, and if you don't like the journey, it's kind of hard, in your mind. You just say, I want that now, but there's a process for everyone, and that's just life. But it is about the motivation. It is, absolutely.
I think it's always, I always used to explain to people it's about having somebody on your team. And partnering with them, because that in itself can be so empowering for an individual, to give them that confidence that somebody actually believes in you. Yeah. So we believe in you. We're here to help you. How can I help you? And when you actually open with that discussion and conversation, it's amazing what you can see, the transformation of individuals. And if I can share a quick story, so once upon a time working in disability employment services, I worked with a beautiful woman who's actually a friend of mine now. I won't mention her name, and she had throat cancer. And she was a very qualified, knowledgeable nurse, but because of her throat cancer, she was unable to speak properly for some time. So then she was allocated this particular role. Anyway, she'd been unemployed for probably over 12 months. We partnered together. She came onto my caseload. And you know what? I started having fun with it. And I said, you know what? I think you're incredible. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get a job, because I know you're awesome. And she said, well, I would love to get a job. So we worked together. And honestly now, she's a regional manager of a healthcare facility. And she contacted me yet again last week asking for people, because she can't get enough people in her industry. And she's the one that calls the shots now. It's like,
yay, that's a total win. It is.
The other thing is definitely worth celebrating, where a client becomes an employee, then they become an employer, and then they become an advocate for you in the workplace, in the community. Yeah. Yep.
That's why you guys do what you do. It is amazing. It really is truly amazing. So what's your top tip for someone who is trying to bridge that gap back into employment?
To get into work, identify your goals, all right, and I suppose work out a plan. Work out what you are going to do. I suppose it comes down to what sort of industry you're trying to get into, and what type of employment. The main thing I think with employment is you've got to show the employers that you are actively interested in getting into the role that they've got for you. Obviously, skill set is important. But I think the most important thing that employers look for is the ability to fit in with whatever team they've got there. Yep. Because
identify the employer's expectations and then try to meet those expectations.
Yeah, and make sure you fit in with what they're doing, because if one person in a team, and nearly every workplace, no matter how small, is a team, if one person isn't getting on with the others, isn't playing well with the rest of the group.
Collaborating, because they call it these days. Teamwork's out the window. It's collaborating now.
Yeah. Oh, I like the whole teamwork is the dream work kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that can damage the business, and there's no need for that. You just, and really, I suppose most people can learn a new skill. Okay, I had never done. I'd wash dishes at home and that, but it's very different to kitchen hand in a commercial kitchen. delivery driving sounds like a no-brainer, but you have to know how to, program your GPS, get to places. I mean, it is very simple nowadays, but that was a whole new skill set for me to learn. And they took me on without that knowledge base, taught me what I needed to do on the job. And yeah,
amazing. I have to say on that though, people do not go and pick up their own food anymore. There's so many people with it's amazing to watch.
Can I just take this opportunity, because there are a number of people out there that aren't on Centrelink payments, but there is also still help available, and we're very lucky here in Rockingham. There's actually something called the Jobs and Skills Centre, and it's a government-funded...
state government-funded.
It is state
as opposed to federal, which is all the job services agencies. Yep.
That's right. And if I can give out that telephone number for anybody who's actually looking for work or wants to improve their skills, I'm going to put out that number now. It's 13 64 64. They're based on Simpson Avenue here in Rockingham. There is one in Mandurah, one in Rockingham, one in Northbridge, there's one in Armadale, Thornley, I believe there's one in Balcatta. I think there's 7, but locally, they know
There's
my
no
name.
Excuses, people. There's one on your doorstep
Honest
somewhere.
They know my name off the top of their head. They're like, oh, okay, another referral from Ali Bannister. It's free. We've paid for it.
The Jobs and Skills Centres are actually embedded in all of the local TAFEs.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're part of the same. They're a separate organisation, but within the TAFE campuses, and they're really good if you want to learn a new skill, because they've got direct access to all the different TAFE courses, and there are a number of.
I think 70 are free. I believe 70 courses.
Yeah, and they're fully funded. Fully funded for people within certain parameters, obviously. Yeah. But there's things like, there's basic training on COVID-safe skills. I think there's a hospitality skill set.
Starting your own business.
Yeah, starting your own business. And all of this is free. You don't have to be on Centrelink to access it. You can just walk in there.
Isn't that amazing? Wow. And we don't know unless we're told.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
He gets a tambourine.
He's tapping that tambourine.
Because you and I both agree, everyone, if it's free and you have paid for it, why would you not use it? It's paid for through our taxes. I say go and see them. Go and talk to them. You don't even actually have to go in there. You can make an appointment over the phone if you're unable to go in there. And they've got an incredible website as well. I promise you I'm going to get off my soapbox in a moment. They have got an incredible website, and there's lots of resources on there about how to write a resume. There's example resumes. There's cover letters. There's information in there for job searching strategies and tips. So, 13.
There's no excuses, people. Go and do it. 13 64 64. Yep. We're going to wrap it up there, Shane. But thank you so much for coming in and joining. And please come in again. We would love to have you in again to chat about this, because it's so important. It really is, for sure. Thank you so much. Where can people go to check you out?
Well, at the moment, I'm just setting up my website for my business. Which is going to be called Opening Minds WA.
Awesome.
I'm based down in Mandurah, but hoping, I used to live in Rockingham, so it's very familiar to me. Yep. Hoping to be able to, service both areas.
Amazing.
And I suppose, I'm hoping to be able to offer a flexible counselling service where, rather than people having always come to me, I can come to them in a neutral environment or whatever, so that people don't feel
they can stay in their own comfort zone. Amazing.
Yeah, so they're not always in my space, which is comfortable for me, but not necessarily comfortable for them.
Yeah, amazing. That's actually really, really good. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we know that you will have enjoyed that, everyone. And we're going to go to Poker Face by Lady Gaga. Thanks so much.